battle space, invocation, about information warfare, and the call to arms for all of us who hold in our hands a smartphone and daily surrender all our data and attention to an enemy who distorts our perceptions. How big tech, aligned with surveillance and social control, operated by an unholy alliance of kleptocrats and oligarchs, forged in the image of Vladimir Putin to attack democracy both from within and without. That is my charged historic theme. And to inspire me, I have to call upon not only the resources of thousands of investigative journalists and open source investigators, the work of forensic financial analysts, dozens of official parliamentary inquiries, hundreds of criminal and civil cases to make this epic comprehensible. I would also need your understanding. It's called the fifth battle space. The others, land, sea, air, and space, are always kinetic. Artilleries, torpedoes, missiles, drones, and kit that explodes in sudden violence. Digital can be kinetic too, closing down grids, cutting off water, power, light to pipelines, hospitals, railways, post offices, and banks, impacting critical infrastructure in real life through Trojan horses, logic bombs that harm lives and terrorize. Electromagnetic attacks, like bullets, can eviscerate our fragile bodies. But what of our feeble minds? The fifth battle space is mainly cognitive, invading our inner space to alter it. Like in the second Iraq invasion, when a Republican Guard general cannot be extracted from his bunker meters underground, but receives signs, fake comms, radio messages, videos from a cyberspace psychological operation, leading him to believe that a US Army patrol is exposed on some berm line nearby. And so he ventures forth for the glory of capturing them, only to be captured, or more likely reaped by a reaper drone. That's cyberspace and psyops combining to shift reality rather than shatter it. Or as, during a populist election, a new candidate steps forward to expose the corruption of the national elites in the pay of George Soros or the CIA, when, it turns out, all his finances are paid from Moscow through cryptocurrency. And most of his anti-establishment memes are boosted on TikTok with dark money. That's cyberspace and psyops combining to shift reality rather than shatter it. That is my charge. And in these psychic conflicts, these modern wars waged on a global scale, it is in our heads where the air raid happens, in the trenches of our hearts where frontlines rage. So the battle for humanity today is a struggle for meaning, a mythic war. We can only win with a bet of telling, supplying some cognitive security in this treacherous world of fictions with narrative integrity and a tested truth. But why this form? How can poetry combat cyber warfare? Why would you deploy verse, suffocating under the dust of empire, to sing a hymn to anti-colonial freedom? Even back then, as they were recorded, the Iliad, Aeneid, Divine Comedy, were kinds of narrative warfare, a blockchain of illusion, disillusion, which AI can't mangle or bots replicate. That is the force of words, their urgency, their calling. Not just words that could autofill some Bayesian curve, but words that can have the spark, resonance, cadence, and daring to force large language models to come crawling to kiss poetry's calloused, capricious hands. Ahead lies adventure, misadventure. The path that starts here will take us away to who knows where. I can't plot or predict. Human nature is mysterious, opaque. We inhabit the unconscious, that dark wood where where a white heart darts between black tree trunks. And wisdom is like a horn in the wind. Oblivion awaits, but it can save us somewhere far over the event horizon where their agents can never find you, wrapped in obscurity in that cloud of unknowing. You are free. I am free. And tomorrow will be different from yesterday. They can't reduce us to databases. We've backbones and nerves, as well as tongues. So where should we begin? How did he fall upwards so far, the small, skinny kid from St. Petersburg, with his older brother dead in the Nazi siege, and local gangs are picking on his height? Putin was liaising with the Stasi in Dresden, providing support for terrorist groups like Baader-Meinhof Red Army faction to help subvert Western democracies when the Berlin Wall fell. And the horror of that Soviet collapse was like his childhood, something he never wanted to repeat. Under Yeltsin, he rose in the FSB, helped organize crime, siphon food relief, a new kind of gangster apparatchik, the Siloviki, who took over in the 90s as the state assets handed out in vouchers to bushkas or their hungry children could be sold to a kiosk selling flowers or illicit cigarettes until, combined, the kiosk owners and secret police created the world's biggest mafia state. Putin was the master of this by playing oligarch against oligarch, saving some, then rejecting them later, till the 9 billion heir Nazgul complied with his power. He deployed the dark arts of compromat when the public prosecutor Skuratov was investigating Yeltsin's family wealth. He had a former KGB colleague, media owner Alexander Lebedev, to film the prosecutor with prostitutes. When Skuratov was gone, Putin was nominated as Boris Yeltsin's successor. After, to secure the presidency, Putin fought a second Chechen war in the wake of bomb attacks on Russian apartments, suspiciously timed. Was he replaying Dresden, the use of false flag terrorism for some kind of reflexive control? The evidence of a state provocation is pieced together by the journalist Anna Politkovskaya with the help of Putin's former FSB colleague Alexander Litvinenko in London. As both track down eyewitnesses to this self-inflicted atrocity, Putin inflicts another. Litvinenko is poisoned with green tea laced with a polonium isotope exclusively made in a state-controlled Russian facility. Politkovskaya is assassinated outside her apartment on Putin's birthday. And the terror spreads wider. Putin's placeman, Yanukovych, takes over Ukraine. Breakaway Georgia is invaded. The Jews done and the danger averted, Putin appears to retreat from power by handing over the presidency to his puppet, Dmitry Medvedev. It is here that we can begin our story. At the end of that decadent decade, when Russian society seems to have evolved into a fast-wheeling but democratic state with a peaceful transition of power. No one wanted to believe tyranny could return, least of all Russia's old enemies. Barack Obama has promised a reset in relations with the Kremlin. In the UK, Cameron welcomes Putin into number 10. London is fast becoming Londongrad. Its stockbrokers, lawyers, PR and media awash with stolen Russian billions. Dmitry Firtash, Roman Abramovich, Oleg Deripaska, Boris Berezovsky sponsor universities and museums and galleries, newspaper, football clubs. They send their children to private schools and their cash to Cameron's Conservative Party. There are cocktails at the embassy and the lush gardens in Kensington. Young activists are invited to digital barbecues, the innate Rococo rooms, to discuss the internet and media, Snowden, Assange, US surveillance and WikiLeaks. The political first century called them digital barbecues. But it was not until later we found it was us being fried. Some special ones go all the way to the new tech hub in Skolkovo, followed by Moscow nightclubs where the delegates rave to techno beats, while under the glass dance floor, sharks race round in mad delirium. There's all to play for. Russia is now free. A new president and a new liberality, especially with money. So much of it, suborning investors and politicians until 2012, when the rug is pulled. Putin mounts a presidential comeback. The social media that was meant to empower forged into a fool, forged into a tool to follow, control. Facebook, offering a world of connections, became any secret policeman's wet dream. Those blogging platforms and comment sections, meant to express the will of the people, manipulated by trollbots from on high, and peer-to-peer networks that should erode hierarchies like acid, did the reverse. The pyramid grew higher as the base expanded, and the eye at the top could see everything, sleepless, not just a managed democracy, but a complete stage-managed reality. High above the London sky, its fuselage glinting orange in the stratosphere, Carol Cadwallader, feature writer for The Observer and one of the few heroes of this story of patriarchs, oligarchs, and oligarchs, was still a tech utopian, not quite yet the Cassandra of the social media age. Flying back from Moscow that summer, as Putin's secret police cracked skulls, she had interviewed Pussy Riot members, the feminist band in punk balaclavas, now arrested and incarcerated for sacrilege. And the violence towards dissent, baton charges, the Moscow riot police dressed like robocops with helmets and headsets and Kevlar vests. Carol was glad to take that glide path back home. As a plane descends along the Thames, the night flashes blue, cyan, gold, vermilion. The London Olympics opening ceremony, unlike the vacuous Millennium Dome, shows a Britain full of culture and zest, industry and exploration, James Bond and James Watts, the Queen and Queen, Ada Lovelace and the World Wide Web, Mary Poppins dancing into the NHS, and watching it later, Cadwallader felt a rare sense of multinational pride. She could not imagine the brutality and bigotry she left behind in Moscow could have purchased here. If only she knew how much the Welsh warrior would yet have to fight. That same summer in the Russian embassy, the new ambassador Alexander Yakovenko launched Conservative Friends of Russia. An effort to infiltrate our politics is taking shape with two diplomats, Sergei Nalobin and Alexander Udod, tasked with targeting the rival between Boris Johnson and David Cameron and amplifying the voice of Nigel Farage on Russian media channels and in the EU. This is part of a Europe-wide project to fund and promote hard-right parties. No one wanted to believe Tyranny's return, in retrospect, but there was no mistaking it. Litvinenko lies in a lead coffin. Sergei Magnitsky, the lawyer trying to recover millions stolen by the tax authorities, is beaten to death in a Russian prison. The fix is in. Putin's magician, impresario Vladislav Surkov, is conjuring political parties from left, center, and right, stage managing youth parties to combat the color revolutions. His young protege, internet guru Konstantin Rykov, has moved from online prostitution to TV, where he controls hundreds of trolls on the comment sites and is rewarded with a place in parliament. Meanwhile, Alexander Dugin, crotchety latter-day Rasputin of revived Russian orthodoxy, has a billionaire backing his website, full of bile against the West and a plan. In my tale, these three men, the mystic, the internet wizard, and the stage magician, join forces at a new online startup. Owned by Putin's cook, Yevgeny Prigozhin, whose Concord Catering Company supplies some 3 million soldiers in the Russian army, and whose new venture, Wagner, led by a neo-Nazi, promises security, assisted by Russian military intelligence, to prop up friendly regimes in Africa, and is soon back to back Assad's Syrian terror as he resists the Arab Spring. But for now, let's leave those mercenary musicians and go to his internet research agency in a nondescript St. Petersburg suburb.